Now, obviously, when you listen to some people, they seem to be satisfied with the modus operandi before February 16, 2015. And some believe that there was no need for transformation and that the country was basically headed in the right direction. You are the leader of the People's Action Movement. What do you think in terms of transformational leadership? Because what we're having here is transformational leadership. A change in terms of direction, a change in terms of course, and so on.
Let me answer you by stating that in the first instance, you will always have those supporters of any political party. There will always be supporters who will hold the view that things are going in the right direction. You will always have those supporters who, for one reason or the next, will never tell you that there are things which ought to change and that the country needs a change of direction. So even though I'm the leader of a political party, I do accept that. However, I also accept the fact that there is need for change. Life isn't constant, and no matter what happens in life, there always will be changes and there will be need for change. You asked me about my own views as the political leader of the People's Action Movement, and even as I sit here, one would recall that within the last 3 years, even the People's Action Movement went through a change of leadership. That change hasn't negatively affected the People's Action Movement. So I, and I think others, can speak to change taking place. I don't expect to be the leader of the People's Action Movement for the rest of my life. I don't even expect to be the political representative for constituency number 5 for the rest of my life, because someone must come along with different ideas. Someone must come along who wants to build upon what has already been achieved. At some point in time, as in life, you need persons with a different vision, persons who are going to see things differently. Sometimes when we stay in one particular position for far too long, we tend to become complacent. We tend not to be able to see things differently. And so you need those changes for that very same reason. You need new ideas. You need persons with new energies. You need a new blood to take things forward. We should never hold the view that we are the only persons who are capable of doing something. We can see from life that persons come and persons go, but life still goes on and achievements still are being made.
I suppose that you would not want the legacy of having a team unity administration in place for, let's say, for 20 years, and there is no real plan in terms of succession plan, political succession. And I suppose some of what you said is what really underpins the legislation that you brought to the Parliament in terms of the office of tenure for Prime Minister Bill. Could you speak a little bit to that, because that definitely is a paradigm shift in terms of governance?
It is a paradigm shift, and it is again one of the promises that we would have made to the electorate, that we would introduce term limits for the Prime Minister. That bill has had a first reading, and it is our expectation that very shortly it would come back before the Parliament for the second and third reading, so that it can become part of the laws of St. Kitts and Nevis. Indeed, we recognize that after 2 terms in government, give someone else the opportunity to bring fresh ideas. We also are concerned about the fact that we have right here within St. Kitts and Nevis and elsewhere in the Caribbean and the world the tendency for persons to get into government and to begin to feel like the government, the country belongs to that particular individual rather than that individual being a servant of the people. We recognize that right here the Constitution provides for quite a lot of power to be bestowed upon the person who holds the office of the Prime Minister. And that is, apart from motion of no confidence, etc., that is one of the ways by which you are able to rein in that particular individual and to ensure that you have the type of changes which are needed, that you put the necessary checks and balances in place so you don't have complacency, you don't have persons having that sense of entitlement, that sense of empowerment that I cannot be moved and I am going to be there forever, and you begin to reign supreme over the country.
You are Deputy Prime Minister of this federation, apart from the other portfolios that you have. You work closely with the Prime Minister and the rest of the Cabinet on many issues. Could you give us a snapshot of consultative governance? Remember that there were many people who said that you were not going to last for 6 weeks, 6 months, and they were giving a sort of a timeline. Now you are here 1 year later. What has made it work? I've heard a lot of talk about consultative governance. Could you give us a snapshot of what that actually means as you being Deputy Prime Minister, a member of the Cabinet?
Certainly, Mr. Williams. You spoke to the fact that apart from being Deputy Prime Minister, I'm also the Minister with responsibility for education, youth, sports and culture. When you look at those ministries and all of the other ministries within government, you have to work with each other. Almost everything that you do would involve working with a next ministry. For example, to run the affairs of any ministry, you need the support of the Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
And so you need that consultative approach, whether it is that you have to consult with the Minister of Finance or persons within the Ministry of Finance. We go to Cabinet and we discuss various issues within the Cabinet. But at the end of the day, what we do is we look at what is most economical, what is in the best interest of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. It is not about PAM, it is not about CCM, it is not about PLP, but it is about the development of St. Kitts and Nevis, the development of our people. And so you consult with each other, you have different ideas contending, but we listen to each other, and at the end of the day we come to an agreement as to what is the best approach to take. So whether it is within or outside of the Cabinet, it takes consultation with your fellow ministers to get things done. Within your own constituency, you will have constituents who will have various needs. Some of those needs cannot be handled by you as an individual or within your own ministry, but you have to consult with a next minister. This morning, for example, as I'm driving into Bastille, I received a call from an ex-minister about some work to be undertaken at one of the play fields in his constituency. Again, consultation. This afternoon, an ex-minister called me about something which he would like being done in his particular constituency. Yesterday I had one-on-one consultations at my own constituency office in Sandy Point. Some of the persons had various issues that they would want me to address. I can recall picking up the phone, for example, calling Minister Liebert, because some of those issues would pertain to his ministry. I picked up the phone, I called Minister Phipps, because some of those issues are relative to the Ministry of Health. Yesterday morning I visited the Dateby Primary School The head teacher there indicated to me that there is a 6-year-old child who cannot walk. And so on a daily basis, one of the persons who work at this school, you would have to lift him up, bring him to school, lift him up, take him to home, in addition to her own bags and other stuff that she would be carrying. She said she has been trying to get some assistance for him for a wheelchair for quite some time now. I immediately called Minister Phipps, and she in turn would have spoken to her permanent secretary. The permanent secretary then called me to indicate to me that sometime last year there was a donation of wheelchairs, and he is certain that there is a smaller one that that child can be accommodated in, and he would have that wheelchair delivered to the Diekbe Primary School for the child to use. He went so far to suggest to me that perhaps the Ministry of Education ought to look at having at least one wheelchair available at each of the schools, because you never can tell when a need may arise, be it a child who becomes injured while playing or some accident taking place, somebody become ill, that those wheelchairs can actually become an asset, a beneficial asset to the schools. So just about every day you see that consultative approach taking place again in the interests of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
I know you started off by speaking about some of the achievements or the highlights of the Team Unity administration, and it was not exhaustive, of course. You mentioned VAT and offer food, medicine, and funeral expenses, and some other things. Could you highlight some more of the achievements of the Unity administration for this 1 year that they have been in government?
Of course I can.
And what would be some of the things that would stand out for you? If you were to say what you think as a Minister of Government, are the 5 most or the greatest achievements that have stood out for you, what would they be? I know it's...
And I think perhaps I've named the 5 top ones. I spoke to the fact that you had some 2,310 persons benefiting from the $16 million paid out to farmer sugar workers. And that wasn't limited to persons who had been working at the time when the industry had been closed. I spoke about the fact that we have been able to remove VAT from food, from funeral expenses, from medication. I spoke about the temporary facilities provided for the students and teachers at Bastyr High School. I spoke to the fact that we have also been able to change the cost of living for persons, and apart from that, one way we have been able to do that is to remove the surcharge from electricity, so that persons, business places, individual consumers have been able to benefit. The Prime Minister himself, as the Minister of Finance, would have given the statistics as to how many new jobs we have been able to create within 1 year. The Minister of Tourism would say to you that we have had over 1 million cruise ship passengers, and this year we are expecting even more. That is significant because, of course, lives there are also being impacted, the persons working directly in the tourism industry, and of course you would have the other indirect benefits. Tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. at OTI, we are going to be launching our e-government platform. That is a significant achievement within the first year in office. Within my own ministries, we are now in the process of getting our youth policy implemented, and so we have had thus far one consultation taking place, and we are hoping to go to Nevis very shortly, and we have several more consultations which will take place before the implementation. There are 2 conventions, UNESCO conventions, which have been outstanding for a very long time, which we haven't ratified. those are now before the cabinet to be approved, and I am certain that the cabinet will give its blessings. We just came out of Carnival, and it has been described as one of the better carnivals that we have had in a number of years. While I said that, let me also say that we are in the process now of organizing the prize giving ceremony. It was just this morning that I would have spoken with the Ministry of Finance to get an indication as to where we are with the release of those funds, so that the prize giving ceremony can be held as soon as possible. We have some vendors which we still have some monies outstanding for, and that of course would require cabinet submission to get the necessary funds to ensure that those bills are paid, but that also is being worked on. So we have had several different ways in which we can celebrate our achievement as a government. I know at the Ministry of Works, we are currently in the process of doing some exploration for additional sources of water. We are looking to see how we can become more energy efficient. You would have heard that apart from the exploration for geothermal energy in Nevis, we are now looking at the possibility of doing the very same thing right here in St. Kitts. So in all of the different ministries, we have had reasons to say that after 1 year in government, we are satisfied with the direction in which we are taking the country. But that doesn't come from me. That is what we are getting generally from persons. A poll was done sometime late last year, and again the poll expressed that very same sentiment, that the majority of persons in St. Kitts and Nevis said that thus far the government is doing a good job.